What's up folks, Crush SG here, back with another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to talk about damage and how it's calculated in Genshin Impact. Elemental Mastery and reactions won't be included in this video, but I do have an EM video planned as well, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so damage is king in Genshin Impact. For the most part anyway. And naturally everyone wants to know how to maximize damage output of their characters. Unfortunately, with lots of questions comes lots of answers, and with lots of answers comes many different answers, making things just a little bit confusing. Well, I'm going to try to keep things as simple as possible today, while also trying not to compromise on the details. Okay, so what are the damage attributes and how are they calculated? We have two primary groups of damage attributes, namely additive ones and multiplicative ones. As a general guideline, additive damage is what is shown as your attack value on your character sheet, the sum of the white and green numbers basically, also known as your sheet attack. Multiplicative damage is displayed as a multiplier in various places further down the stat screen. In the additive group we have base attack, flat attack, and percent attack. Base attack is indicated by the white number on the stat screen and is generally only attainable as the primary stat of your weapon and from your character's default base attack, which increases as you level up. No other attack stat is added to this white value unless it has the word base in it. There are rare instances where you can acquire base attack outside of the weapon primary stat, and one example is the Wolf's Gravestone Claymore, which has a 20% increase to base attack as part of its special bonus. Now flat and percent attack on the other hand are acquired from a variety of sources such as artifact primary stats, artifact substats, weapon bonuses, set bonuses, as well as character talent and constellation bonuses. These two stats subsequently make up the green value in your stat screen. Now flat attack does exactly what it says it does. It is straight up just added as a flat value to the green stat. i.e., if your artifact says plus 10 attack, it adds 10 to the green value and that's it. Percent attack on the other hand is calculated by taking the sum of all your percent attack sources, then multiplying it by your base attack and adding the resulting value to the green stat. So if you had 500 base attack and a total of 100% attack, this would add 500 attack, i.e. 100% of 500 base attack, to the green stat. Thus, your total sheet attack would be base attack plus additive attack, white plus green, and that is pretty much it for additive stats. Next we get into multiplicative stats. Multiplicative stats are divided into 4 categories. The total of each category is then applied multiplicatively to your sheet attack. Multiplicative stats can be acquired from select artifacts and substats, set bonuses, weapon bonuses, as well as some talent or constellation bonuses. The 4 categories are inherent talent damage modifiers, crit damage, bonus damage, and resistance reduction. The order in which these categories are multiplied with one another doesn't really matter, only that they are multiplied and not added. The talent damage modifier is the value that is stated in the description of any talent under skill description. Depending on the talent, you could see values ranging anywhere from 50% to 500% attack. Important note, this is an of modifier, meaning of. It is not a more modifier, so the value is applied directly to your sheet attack, whereas the other categories are more modifiers, hence the value of 1 or 100% needs to be added to their base values during calculation. Now crit damage increases your damage by the amount stated if you land a crit. Crit chance simply dictates how often your crit damage multiplier is applied, and it doesn't actually increase your damage value in any way on its own, so I'll exclude crit chance from this discussion. Bonus damage, which is important, is the sum of any other sources of bonus damage attainable in the game. That is, elemental damage, skill-specific damage, general increased damage, burst damage increases. Basically, any other stat that increases your damage falls under burst damage. Falls under bonus damage. Lastly, resistance reduction reduces the target's resistance to a given element, increasing damage done to the target proportionally if you use that element. Okay, so let's see the entire calculation in action using stats from my razor as an example. So these are my base attack, flat attack, and percent attack values. First, you want to add 191 to 376 to get your total base attack. Next, you add an additional 75% of this as percent attack, followed by adding 430 flat attack, and you get the total of 1445 sheet attack. To get the final damage, we now apply all the multiplicative damage sources. Sheet attack is multiplied by 143% inherent attack, then multiplied by 61.7% crit damage, followed by 131% total bonus damage, followed by 55% resist reduction. And we have a final damage of 11,963. This value, of course, does not factor in the mob's base defense or resistances. So that's how damage is calculated in a nutshell, folks. Short and sweet, as I promised. And as you can see, this is why multiplicative damage is so valuable and touted by virtually everyone as the single best choice for maximizing your damage. Or is it? Really? Nah, I'm just playing. It really is usually the best choice. But it wouldn't be a Crush SG video if I didn't at least do some investigatory poking around. After all, the question of Ele damage versus percent attack on the Goblet artifact is pretty much the most popular question right now. So, an important point that is often overlooked in the whole Goblet debate, or you could call it the Ele damage versus anything else debate for that matter. The important point overlooked is that multiplicative bonus damage is in fact additive within its own category. And this is important to understand as it could lead to overestimating the potential gains from gear choices, and in the worst case scenario actually have you choosing to use suboptimal gear. The key point here is the more bonus damage you have from all sources, the less value you get from adding even more bonus damage. Let's go back to the spreadsheet again. As you can see, I've added a new section. It is the same as the original section except that I've excluded the Goblet artifact from the calculation. Here we want to explore how much more damage my razor actually gains using a physical damage Goblet versus a percent attack one. To be clear, physical damage on razor is 100% the better choice, all else equal. I'm not debating that fact in the slightest, but it's still interesting to know how much better of a choice it really is, for my razor at least. Now comparing just 4-star goblets, because that's the only physical goblet I have for razor, you can get 34.8% attack or 43.5% physical damage on a plus 16 4-star goblet. Let's see how the math works out. This is the damage without a goblet entirely, this is with an attack goblet, and this is with a Phys damage goblet. The final difference is a staggering 8%. Wait, 8%? That's what razor gains going from percent attack to Phys damage? 8% is so not worth whacking my brains over. Had I mathed this out sooner, I would have taken whichever goblet had better substats at the time. Now I'm considering switching to either a percent attack one with better substats, or maybe even one of my 5-star percent attack artifacts as soon as I get the resources to enhance them, of course, maybe sometime mid-2021. Now while we're at it, let's take a glance at another example. How much would I gain going from an attack goblet to a Dmg Goblet on my Noelle, and is it enough for me to consider it? So as you can see, I gain 14.1% damage. That's better than 8%. At least we're in double digits. And as soon as my burst ends, I lose 12.3% damage because I stopped dealing geo damage. That's bearable, I guess. But remember, I didn't factor in any substat changes. I simply swapped the attack percent and the geo damage bonuses, and that's all I did. And of course, I already mathed it out. I lose 10.8% damage just from substats, cause my only 5-star Geo artifact, Geo Goblet right now is absolute garbage. Meaning my net gain switching to a Geo Goblet is only going to be 3.3%. That with a 12.3% loss when my burst is down. It's not happening. I'll probably revisit this whole thing again when I get a better Geo Goblet, or if the math is more favorable sometime down the road. You never know. Stats change. I might get a certain upgrade here, a certain upgrade there that could change the balance of my stats enough to make switching to a Geo Goblet actually favorable. Anyway, folks, this is why I don't bother with a Geo Damage Goblet for my Noelle. And this is why you need to understand exactly how multiplicative damage truly works. My Razor has so much bonus damage that it almost completely diminished the value of using a physical damage goblet. And I stuck with one cause the then very noob me blindly went with the whole Ele damage is always better on goblet logic. Okay, to wrap things up, guys, just avoid blanket statements wherever possible. Ask specific questions. Understand that what works for someone else may not work for you. And understand that you still need to ensure that you have a decent amount of sheet attack, i.e. additive stats, in order for your multipliers to produce large numbers. 20 times 0 is still gonna be 0. A proper balance of attack stats will produce better numbers. Alright, that brings us to the end of today's video, folks. As always, if you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, thumbs down works as well. Share my videos with your friends if you learned something. Subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.